So once I told Good Logic when I was on his show that it seems like the far left goes in this kind of interesting cycle when it comes to things that they're up to that they would rather that we didn't know, but that they eventually, hopefully, want us to accept as normal. The process typically starts with it's not happening and nobody actually supports, the idea of it happening. This is like critical race theory in schools. Eventually, you find out more evidence, you show it to them, and they go, okay, fine, it is happening, but nobody really supports it. Or they'll say things like, it's just some fringe, small part of the left. Then eventually, the next stage is, it is happening, and it should be happening. I'm curious when the other shoe is going to drop when it comes to this issue. At what point do we get to stop lying and just claiming that this isn't going on, that it's some kind of crazy right-wing conspiracy theory? I'm going to use the CBS version of this, and I'm going to use some of the stuff from the Libs of TikTok article. If you want to see the complete unedited video, which I do suggest you watch, you should go to Libs of TikTok. Since they're the ones who brought this story to my attention, I'd like to, obviously move some traffic back their way. But in the meantime, I got no problem whatsoever ripping off the mainstream media. And this is CBS, so it's not like this is Fox News or something. So let's have a look at what they talk about here about student-led drag show at an Elk Grove High School assembly angers some parents. So this is the edited version, and then it'll have their kind of commentary on it. Oh, gotta make sure it's not. There we go.
Backlash and praise.
CBS 13's Ashley Sharp is getting.
Now to a drag show showdown in Elk Grove, a student-led drag performance by Pleasant Grove High School's LGBTQ group getting backlash and praise.
CBS 13's Ashley Sharp is getting answer from the district and reaction from parents divided about the performance. Ashley.
Hey guys, yeah, this happened at a multicultural event at the school celebrating different backgrounds. It's an annual event that's been happening here at Pleasant Grove High School for decades. A performance at the end of Friday's assembly with students in drag has some parents upset and saying now that they wish their children had had the choice on whether to attend or not.
I don't think that drag belongs in school.
It was a complete shock.
Some Pleasant Grove High School parents say they're disappointed school leaders did not make it known that students would be performing in drag at a multicultural assembly on Friday.
They were not transparent, and it was mandatory.
This video shows some of the 4-minute-long performance. CBS 13 has blurred the faces of students as many are minors. It shows the group dancing in drag, something some parents are saying made their students uncomfortable.
My son said to me, he said, "Mom, I'm just going to put my head down." I texted him back and said, "You can leave if you're not comfortable." And he said that they weren't allowed to.
District leaders told CBS 13 in a statement all performances at the multicultural assembly were approved by school staff and administration.
It's my right to decide when they're exposed to certain things and when they're not.
But not everyone thinks the performance was inappropriate. Beverly Kearney with Sacramento's Love is Love movement told CBS 13 she sees nothing wrong with it.
While one parent may take offense to it, what about that parent whose kid for the first time got out there and got that chance to be who they are?
Kearney argues every child deserves to see themselves represented.
It sends a message to kids that who they are is valid. It's important. It matters that there's nothing wrong with them.
At the center of the debate, whether performing in drag sexualizes these students who chose to perform and had school support.
When you're sexualizing kids under the umbrella of inclusivity, that's where it draws a line.
But others say there's nothing sexual about it.
I've seen far more sexualized performances by high school dance teams, and they're wearing a lot less clothing than, the drag performers were.
District leaders also say under anti-discrimination laws, California schools are required to give all students access to school activities and programs consistent with their gender identities and expression.
Certainly got people talking, that's for sure. Ashley Sharp live in Elk Grove. Ashley, thank you.
So, anyway, to show who they really are, I've done a lot of episodes on this topic, as you guys remember, and we went over the fact that there are conferences that teachers go to where they are taught how to create these LGBTQ clubs in the schools, sometimes under the guise of being called something else. So, for example, it's called the Diversity Club, where my kids used to go to school. And I don't have a problem with LGBTQ kids getting together and doing whatever. The thing is that there's adults involved in this process. And their purpose there is to try to encourage kids to get into this stuff. And they openly always start with trying to find the kids who don't have any friends. So I've been over all of that. You guys can watch my other videos on the topic. But when they say things like, well, now they can finally be who they really are, and you have kids in drag, with short mini skirts gyrating their hips, that's who they really are. You want teenagers to identify with that, and it was more tame than some of the drag shows that I've seen. But another interesting point that I've noticed when I'm discussing this topic, because Jon Stewart, stuck his foot in his mouth again, although he won't look at it that way, when he was arguing with that guy about gun control. Why do you need drag to find its way to children? What's your motive there? Why do you need drag queens reading books to little kids? And what they usually, if you corner people on this, when you say you're arguing on Twitter or Facebook, they'll go, well, it's just costumes. I mean, what's the big deal? Like people dress up as mice, at Disney World. I'm like, and furries are a thing. That's what this person told me. And I'm like, that's not the same thing, and you know it. It's not. Drag has a sexual component to it. It always has. And I honestly think you're going to have one of two schools of thought on this. The first one would be that if you look at John Money and his work, he believed that children's sexuality was determined by early life experiences. And so they could be thinking, well, this is how we replicate or reproduce the queer community. And, the truth is, there definitely is a component to that. For example, George Takei came out at one point. I played Sulu on Star Trek, who has a Facebook account that he uses a lot to virtue signal, and he's homosexual. And he said that there's no grooming going on other than maybe teaching them how to shave or something. He just tried to make little of the grooming thing. And then somebody came up with a clip of him. It's an audio clip of him discussing how he lost his virginity, which was when he was a teenager, and it was with an adult who was a camp counselor. So again, if that's how they think they reproduce themselves or whatever, then that's one motive. The other one, I think, is that perhaps some of these people believe that if they expose kids to this at a young age, or rather that if it's basically a process to try to help LGBTQ kids who are genuinely organically that way to find support at an early age, to be able to come out as soon as possible and to get whatever support they need. Some of those people also probably think that they're genuinely protecting children. And I mean, to be honest with you, there's some truth to that, particularly before, like I'd say in the 80s when the LGBTQ community was still kind of like, I mean, people are still using the FAG word to insult people, things like that. And there was a real fear about coming out that your parents might beat the shit out of you, right? I mean, that's a real thing. And if that's happening, somebody needs to intervene. Like if a legitimately gay child is in some, I don't know, really crazy religious family. I mean, I remember talking to a guy once who said because his son was hanging out with a lot of girls that if he was gay, he would beat the gay out of him. That kind of shit is real. That's not fake. But at this point, they're basically being told it's okay to keep secrets from parents who've never done anything like that, who aren't abusive. In fact, they may even be supportive. So, anyway, let's move on. They give some more details here. It's Elk Grove, a Pleasant Grove high school drag performance on campus has stirred emotion and divided parents. Should drag shows be allowed in schools? And it was a student-led routine. That means that students did this. This isn't even inviting adult drag queens to the school. It's getting the students to do it themselves. How is that not grooming? In what world is that not grooming? There's just no way to interpret that as not trying to influence kids to do this stuff. And again, like I said, if a kid is legitimately LGBTQ, they should be allowed to be themselves, but that doesn't include gyrating their hips in front of the entire school at a mandatory assembly. And this is like they're trying to force this acceptance. Not only does it not work, it's actually going to put kids in danger. That guy, crowdsourced politics, we were talking about debating because he says I should shut up about these topics because I'm going to get people killed. And he points to the extremists like, shooting gay people in a bar or whatever, and that's a consequence of people bringing up these problems. And I said, no, what's going to get people killed is lying about these things and claiming that they're not happening, which is going to give people a justified reason to be worried about what you're doing with their kids. But anyway, the Elk Grove Unified School District statement released to the media reads in its entirety. On Friday, March 3rd, various students at an Elk Grove Unified High School performed as part of the school's multicultural assembly. The show included only Elk Grove Unified students and was held in full compliance with student codes of conduct and existing requirements for on-campus events. All performances at the multicultural assembly were approved by school staff administration, in support of the EGUSD secondary education. All EGUSD students are protected under numerous federal, state, and district anti-discrimination laws. California and federal law require schools to afford students equal opportunity and access to the school's activities and programs in a manner that is consistent with each student's gender identity and gender expression. Remember, folks, gender identity as a concept comes from John Money, the same guy that ended up with one of his patients committing suicide because they convinced his parents that they could just raise him as a girl. Anyway, the primary responsibility for a student's attire resides with the students and families. The school district and individual schools are responsible for seeing that student attire does not interfere with the health or safety of any student, and that student attire does not contribute to a hostile or intimidating atmosphere for any student. So, allow students to wear clothing of their choice that is comfortable, allow students to wear religious attire without fear of discipline or discrimination. Well, that's interesting. Allow students to wear clothing that expresses their self-identified gender. Ensure that all students are treated equitably, regardless of race, sex, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, ethnicity, religion, cultural observance, household income, or body type and size. And I think that obviously, again, they should all be allowed to do that. It's just a question of why do you need to do a sexualized drag show in front of the assembly, and why is that part of your civil rights? Why couldn't you just allow, let's change this a little bit. So let's say that you want to do something like that, and maybe you allow the students that are actually interested in that to go instead of forcing the entire school to go, which is apparently what they did. So I'm going to look a little bit here at the Libs of TikTok part of this. And again, I'm going to provide the link because they give the full unedited version. Unfortunately, you can't hear much of the introduction in the beginning. But one of the things that they say in that video is that this was a protest, that this display was a protest specifically about violence against LGBTQ and trans people. So, um, that they were doing this as a political statement at that point. And I'll provide the link and you guys can watch the full video later. Um, but there was something in particular. This is like what I wanted to point out here, and this is apparently what they sent out multicultural Expo Friday. Dear parent or guardian, hello. PGHS is proud to present its annual Multicultural Expo taking place Friday, March 3rd. During the day, students will be attending one of two shows in the morning. Due to space constrictions, these assemblies are for students only. I'm sure that's all that was. I'm sure it had nothing to do with you not wanting parents in the room to see what you're up to, right? And please note, with the assemblies taking place until 11 a.m., early dismissals may not be available until after these assemblies are finished. In the evening, we want to invite you to attend a show dedicated to our families. This performance will begin at 5 p.m. in our main gym and will include free cultural buffet hosted by performing cultural clubs which range from various cultures and backgrounds. Notice they added backgrounds. So, these are examples. Like, the school library contains many books at this school, with the school's extreme agenda, Queer the Ultimate LGBTQ Guide for Teens, a book called Flamer, sexually explicit and pornographic content. Drag Teen, also found in the school library, details the story of a high school senior who competes in a drag teen competition. So again, at what point are we allowed to stop people and just say, just stop lying? Just stop saying this isn't happening. It's just an insult to everyone's intelligence. Just stop. Just go ahead and go to the phase where you try to justify this nonsense. So, in any case, they basically doubled down on it, doubled down on what they did. And I'll provide this link. So I'm still going to be working on the OK Groomer documentary. Unfortunately, while I'm at the hospital, that's going to be very difficult. The computer that I have here, that's also why my sound is not as good. I have a little laptop that, thankfully enough, is just powerful enough for me to be able to make some content for you guys. I'm currently trying to figure out how to fund building a ramp for a wheelchair to get in and out of my house. The bones in my ankle are very soft, so even when I'm finally recovered from this, I'm never going to be 100%. So I should probably just go ahead and prepare for the inevitability of me being in a wheelchair for life. So if you guys want to donate, feel free. I'll make it worth your time. I'm going to be making some more content, actually probably today. I just wanted to break it up into little bits. And the next one is kind of related to this topic, but an indirect way. So thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, you can go to hy.page slash vradio. Sorry, I had a hiccup. hy.page slash vradio. And there you can find all of my mediums, including the places to donate, like PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar, etc. And all my social media accounts like Discord, Facebook, uh, Telegram, etc. And honestly, I do suggest you join the Discord, even if you have no interest in participating, because it's really the only way to be sure that you're going to get all of my video content, because YouTube does not always send out the notifications. In addition to that, I do get people who are somehow magically unsubscribed. Thanks again for tuning in, folks. Hopefully have more today.